Growing up in the 80s, it was fair to say that there was two things every kid enjoyed: NES and wrestling. The NES had a wide selection of 9 titles to choose from on its console. Some of the titles really managed to capture all the elbow-dropping action in the comfort of your own living room, while others, not so much. I'm Retro Rister, and let's jump straight off the top rope into our worst game on the list. Taking the top jobber on this list is Tag Team Match Muscle. Published by Bandai in 1985 and based on the Japanese manga series Kinnikuman. It was such a poorly developed game that I even preferred the Atari 2600 Pro Wrestling game, which is a real shame considering how awesome some of the characters are in the source material. And anyone who's familiar with the awesome toy line that it had could definitely testify to that. It's a real struggle to find anything good to say about this game. The graphics are terrible, the animation is terrible, the hit detection is terrible.
That's terrible.
And with better games out there on the NES, it's best to stay clear of this one. From bad to worse, and taking the second jobber on this list is Tag Team Wrestling. Developed by Technos Japan and published by Data East in 1984. The developers took all the high-flying action of tag team matches, said a polite no thank you, and delivered one of the worst titles ever on the NES. Tag Team Wrestling, or the Big Pro Wrestling in Japan, has only 2 tag teams to choose from. Yeah, it doesn't really look like that on the cover though, does it? And to make matters worse, you can only choose one of these tag teams. The Ricky Fighters, who were based on real Japanese wrestlers of that time, Riki Choshu and Super Strong Machine. To win the championship and beat the game, you must first defeat the only other tag team in this game, the Strong Bads. Yes, the Strong Bads. You do have a variety of moves to choose from, but choosing these moves from a drop-down menu by pushing the B button a number of times isn't exactly an adrenaline rush. It's a big thumbs down, so stay away from this one. Next up, we move away from the tag team matches and into the steel cage with WWF's Wrestlemania Steel Cage Challenge. We fast forward to 1992, where Acclaim Entertainment and LJN produced one of the worst licensed WWE games in existence, and that's saying something. It's the sequel to the far superior Wrestlemania Challenge, which came out the year before, but looks and plays like an 8-bit version of Super Wrestlemania for the Super Nintendo. Now, a wrestling game is only as good as its roster, and although Steel Cage Challenge has an impressive 10 wrestlers to choose from, some of the wrestlers that made the cut are questionable at best.
Go fucking home.
You got Jake the Snake Roberts, Erwin R. Shyster, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, the Excellence of Execution Bret the Hitman Hart, The Undertaker, Rowdy Roddy Piper, the Mountie, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, and Sid Justice, who suffered one of the worst life career injuries ever witnessed in the history of wrestling. Now you can either choose a singles match, a tag team match, or you guessed it, a steel cage match, where just like the real thing, you win the match by climbing the cage as slowly as possible. And once you choose your wrestler, you're introduced into the ring by Howard Finkel himself, and things go from bad to worse when you realize that all the wrestlers have exactly the same move. You have the standard punch, kick and grapple, and if you're lucky, maybe you pull off a body slam. And there is just simply no excuse for the ugly sprites in this game, which even the Hitman himself wasn't pleased with.
Mediocre at best, and maybe a 4 out of 10 or 3 out of 10.
The developers really botched these games up. A better wrestling game is the title you see on the screen right now. Click on the video for the review. And if you like this content, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to leave a comment. I'll see you on the next video.